How you doing? It's Taveri here. Today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how to perform a compression test on our engines. We're going to compression test all 4 cylinders, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a cranking compression test. So right here you can see we got our kit. This is our compression tester kit. This is made by Mighty Vac. Okay. It's got a whole series of adapters and everything else that we can use. So we have a variety. We can use this on multiple makes and models. But this is only for a gasoline engine. This will not work with a diesel engine due to the fact that the compression gases are extremely higher. The compression ratios are way higher than they would be on a gasoline engine. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use this kit, and the vehicle we're going to be working on is a 2000 Chevy Prism. All right, so we'll take a look at some of the steps that are required. Okay, one of the first steps that we want to do in performing a compression test is we want to warm up the engine. I've already ran the engine for about 5-10 minutes, so it's up to operating temperature relatively. Warm enough, so that way all the piston rings and everything are sealing properly, and all of our readings should be relatively level across the playing field. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see any more than a 10% drop in pressure between all the cylinders, and we'll figure that one out once we get all of our readings. Okay, so after initially warming up the engine, the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to remove all the spark plugs. Okay, so I'll go through and I'll demo one of them really quick, and then we'll just knock them all out. Alright, so for this we need a 10mm socket so that we can break loose these bolts that hold down our ignition coils, because we have coilover plug assemblies on here. And then you want to disconnect your electrical connectors. Pull your coil up and just lay it off to the side. Once your coil's removed, we can go down in here, we can grab a hold of the spark plugs, break them loose. Okay. Now, if the spark plug doesn't come out with the socket, here's a quick tip. Just take your coil, just stick it down in there, and then just try to bite down onto that plug. And usually it'll come out with it. If it doesn't, sometimes you got to give it a couple extra turns. There we go. And there's your plug. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knock out the rest of these real quick, and we'll be right back. Alright, as you can see, we got all the spark plugs removed. The ignition coils and the spark plugs are removed, which is a good thing. Now that we have the ignition coils, and because this is a coilover plug system, I'll discuss this real quick. Because it's coilover plug, we don't have to worry about grounding the spark plug wires or anything like that while we crank it, or disabling the ignition for any reason. Because we disconnected the primary side of the ignition coils, we're not going to perform any sort of damage to the coils while we do this test. The next thing we want to be able to do is disable the fuel injection system, because we don't want fuel to spray into the cylinder while we're cranking it over, because we don't want that gas to both fill up inside of the cylinders and wash them out, or get inside of our compression tester. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we got a fuse for the electronic fuel injection. We'll pull that fuse so that way we can crank the car over and don't have to worry about the injectors spraying. If you don't have a fuse, then you can go through and just disconnect the injectors one at a time. Okay. Alright, so we're going to take a look down here, and we can see right here we're looking at the top of the fuse box inside the engine bay. And what we're going to do is look for the EFI fuse. So right here we have EFI, or F heater. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use this fuse. This is going to disable our injector, so I don't have to worry about gas spraying into the engine. Okay, so it's 15 amp, so okay, right here. Okay. Flip that cover over, leave that in there so we don't lose it. Alright, now we'll move on to hooking up the compression tester to the cylinders. Alright, so as you can see, we got a bunch of adapters that I talked about earlier. Alright, this is our compression tester right here. So this is what we're going to be using in order to perform this test. Now, it's imperative that we have to find the right adapter that's going to fit our cylinders. So here's the best tip I can give you. Take the spark plug that you remove from the cylinder, look at the thread pitch, Look at the size and look at the length, okay? And then try to find an adapter that's the exact same. So we can see this one back here is the same length. So this one will work out perfect, okay? Now, what you don't want to do is, let's say that we have a spark plug that has, that's not as deep, it's shorter, but you use a longer one. The problem you can have is when the piston comes up on compression top dead center, or on exhaust, doesn't matter, if these threads stick out past where the spark plug is supposed to go, you can have piston to tool interference, and that would be very bad. So always make sure and double check your spark plug with your threaded adapter. Make sure they're relatively the exact same. Alright, now we're going to lubricate the O-ring with a little bit of oil and slip it down into cylinder number 1. Okay? Alright, when you're going to lubricate the O-ring seal, you don't need anything fancy. Just use a dipstick. Pull it out of the engine here. Rub a little bit of oil off the dipstick, and then just rub it around that O-ring seal. Okay? That's all you got to do. And make sure you do that every time. So now we're going to go ahead. This is the front of our engine block, so I'm going to stick this one into cylinder number 1, which is always located towards the front of the engine block. And we're just going to thread it in until it's hand tight. Okay. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to attach the adapter. It just has a quick connect. Pull the collar back, slip it on, release, and now our compression tester is attached. Okay. So the step we're going to perform now is we're going to crank the engine over, and we're going to crank the engine over for 5 seconds. And after those 5 seconds, we'll come out and we'll record our data and find out where that needle's at. Okay? And then we'll write it down. We'll do that. We'll repeat that procedure for every single cylinder. All right, now that I got this gauge where you can see it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crank it over. And when you crank this over for that 5 seconds, what I forgot to mention is you have to make sure that you step on the accelerator pedal all the way. So you're going to put the engine in wide open throttle and crank it for 5 seconds. We want maximum amount of air flowing into those cylinders as possible. There we go. Alright, so there you go. We can take a look at our pressure right there. It looks like we got right around 200. So I'm going to take that 200 psi and I'm going to write it down. Now there's this little valve right over here on the bottom or on the side. You push this valve in and it'll allow this pressure to release. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and record that. We're going to move on to the next cylinder. Always check, make sure that O-ring's there. You have to remove the hose every time. Looks like we're a little higher on this one. We're right around 205. Write that down. Cylinder number 3. Alright, cylinder number 3, looks like we got 200. Go ahead and write that down. And last cylinder, cylinder number 4. And cylinder number 4, we got just shy of 200. You can call that 195. Okay. Go ahead and remove our tools. We'll write down that last cylinder, and we'll do a little math. All right, so we're going to take a look at our pressures. We got 200 psi on cylinder number 1, 205 on cylinder number 2. 200 on number 3, and 195 on cylinder number 4. So it looks like number 4 is our weakest, but you know, all in all, these are good numbers. So there's nothing really wrong with that. If I take my lowest and I take my highest, that's a difference of 10 psi, which is not bad, because if I take that 10 psi out of 200, that gives me a difference of 5%. So that's good. I'm well within my range. I'm well within specification as of right now. So that's not anything to worry about. So that's a quick and easy compression test that you can perform. Now granted, if you have a V6 or a V8, it could take a little bit more time, but the procedure is the exact same. So you wouldn't change anything. It'd just be more time consuming. All right, so this has been how to perform a compression test. Thanks for watching.